of believers, priests, and gods. They have rituals, miracles, and sacrifices. Sports unite us. They are a calling. This is the religion of sports.
Every religion has parables about going home. The Odyssey, the Exodus, the story of Buddha. They all portray home as an essential spiritual need. Coming home means reunion with our loved ones and our past. Home is sanctuary, belonging, community. We long for it, like something perfect, left behind long ago.
Baseball calls you home. The whole object of the sport is to get home. But when one goes home, one has to bring with you the wonderful memories and the sadnesses that are associated with home as we knew it.
My dad loved baseball, so any time that I go to the game, to me, it's a place where I go and I see my dad and I smile. And even though he might not be here physically, I always say he's definitely with us spiritually.
But also, one has to observe what home is today. Seeing the wonder of what it has become and then extrapolating from that the wonder of what could still be.
The beautiful thing about baseball is that it teaches the lessons of, hey, you're gonna fail a lot of the times. And what dictates your failure is whether or not you pick yourself up and you try again.
Is a delight in seeing players who are beginning. How closely can I observe them to see the promise and possibility in them? Because that's where the purity still lives. And it's all about possibilities.
This is it. This is where I grew up. Every weekend, I used to come here. There used to be a fried chicken place right there, and we used to eat fried chicken and watch movies all day, play on the computer.
You want to come in the pharmacy?
You want to go see it? My father came here in the early 70s. He was a pharmacist degree from Pakistan, and then eventually started a business in Brooklyn. So the store is different. When we were at the store, the cash register was right there, and there used to be, see this glass over here?
Yeah.
There used to be glass all the way around, right? All the way around because of how many times your grandfather got robbed. And it used to be bulletproof glass. You feel how thick that is, right? But that used to be the neighborhood back then. At that point, the area was a little bit rough, and my dad decided we're gonna move to Long Island.
Don't pay attention to the time. Just do your work. Go. Next two, go. Go.
Together, remember? Set your feet. Set your feet, get your feet straight. See your feet's not straight? Yep, bend your knees. In, up. No, no, what Mom's gonna throw it. Just throw it nice, Mom.
Watch the ball. Keep your eye on the ball.
Good. Very good. Good. When we first moved to Levittown at the time, it was predominantly a white neighborhood. So we stuck out as a sore thumb. And I remember we rolled in the evening, and the next morning we'd be looking at the window and we see the local kids outside playing baseball. And obviously we had no clue what baseball was at that point, but it was just natural for us to go outside. Hey, my name is Janed. He's like, great, want to play ball? Like, sure, I don't know how to play. No problem, just go stand there and catch the ball when it comes to you, right? And when you're batting, just swing the bat and hit it. And that was really about it. And just through that, we just naturally started making friends. We settled down, the parents settled down. And it was baseball every day from 3rd grade up until high school, until I left home.
Oh, you got it. I love watching my kids play baseball.
Look, Mommy got one too.
Dad's making fun of me. The first time they played 2 years ago, and then last year they became very serious, so we took private lessons for them. It takes a lot of time from our personal family time, but I feel like it's worth it because they are getting better at it every single day they play, and the more they practice, the more they get better. Too fast.
I wasn't very good playing baseball when I grew up. I stunk. Run down, run down, run down. I batted 9th consistently from 7 years old to being 17 years old.
Got him.
Which is probably why I go to every single practice, I go to every single game. I've canceled meetings with clients just so I can get back in time to watch their baseball game. And it's just important to me to see them succeed in that.
This is a nice photo of Danny.
Yeah, it is. That's when he made his communion. And he had these beautiful, beautiful, big blue eyes that were piercing. And everybody that he talked to would say, I love your eyes. And he used to say, that's because I'm cute. Here's you when you were little, Jennifer.
Oh, yeah, that's...
Those are my 3 oldest kids.
But I'm really the favorite.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a detective with the New York City Police Department. Since I'm 4 years old, I've always said I wanted to be a police officer. And my father cheered me on the whole way. I grew up in Brooklyn. My parents grew up in Brooklyn. My dad grew up right outside of Marine Park in St. Thomas Aquinas Parish, where he went to school. He was a New York City firefighter for 32.5 years. I remember the smell of his turnout gear, which anytime I smell that smell, it reminds me of him.
This is my favorite picture.
That was when he was in the tin house. They used to laugh at him because he was very short to be in the tin house. All the guys in the tin house, it was a ladder company, had to be at least 6 feet, and he wasn't. He was only 5'7".
Yeah, and he looks like he's having a great time.
Yes, he always,
He's laughing.
because he loved every minute of the fire department and loved every guy that he worked with.
I like this picture also,
The Ebbets Field.
the Ebbets Fields, because he loved to go to see the Dodgers.
Well, that was the place to go.
Yeah.
And it wasn't expensive. You'd hop on the bus, you'd get off, and you'd go see the Dodgers.
Yeah.
And you'd root for them, and they'd be winning until the 9th inning, and then they would lose.
Brooklyn is a place that bespeaks the spirituality of baseball. It has all kinds of spaces and places and times and moments that show through the spiritual dimension. In my set, which was the Catholic set, you didn't refer to neighborhoods, you referred to parishes. So there was St. Brendan's Parish, there was St. Mary's Parish. And in this borough of churches, the High Cathedral was Ebbets Field. Brooklyn became the mythic Brooklyn, in part because of the role that the Dodgers played in every element of our lives. If we were playing stoop ball or stick ball, we weren't John or Dougie. We were Jackie or Pee Wee.
Brooklyn had their hearts broken year after year. They'd go down to the last day of the season and not make it. So Brooklyn people through their team knew more about life. Like in life, you often lose. You often don't get what you want. It gave people of different religions, different nationalities, different social and economic classes something in common. And that could unite the whole borough.
You know, as Johnny Padres said so brilliantly in The Boys of Summer, the Brooklyn Dodgers will only win the World Series once, and that was October 4th, 1955. And those other Dodgers, the plastic Dodgers of the Plastic City, they may win the World Series, but they weren't the Dodgers. Because when Walter O'Malley took the Dodgers from Brooklyn, he ripped the soul out of Brooklyn.
Justin asked me one day, do you think I'm ever going to make it to Major League Baseball? And I said, I don't know. So I walked and had a conversation with God. And I came back and I said to him, yes, you're going to play professional ball. I didn't know when, I didn't know where, I didn't know how, but I just knew that he would.
Since the Dodgers had left, you know, you have the Mets in Queens, you have the Yankees in the Bronx, yeah, but Brooklyn has been dying for baseball again.
In 2001, when the Cyclones played their first game, it was electric there. Baseball had been away from Brooklyn for 44 years, professional baseball. The current Cyclone team is a bridge back to the old Dodgers emotionally. It wasn't Major League, but it was pro baseball, and it was back in Brooklyn.
Just to be able to say the word Brooklyn in connection with a baseball team is like returning to that mythic Brooklyn. And thankfully, one could say it's a better Brooklyn.
Odysseus. He left home seeking glory in the Trojan War. 20 years of fighting and adventuring tested his faith in ever being able to return home. But he persevered and came back, changed for the better. Leaving home to confront life's greatest challenges can be empowering and liberating. But coming home is a test of faith and conviction.
With the 19th selection in the 2016 MLB Draft, the New York Mets select Justin Dunn.
Well, this is an amazing story, because he is from the New York Boys Club, and here he is now going in the first round of the draft. He was always sort of growing slowly, got to Boston College, and ironically, he was going to be the closer, but they had a rainout in early April, 3 straight games against Florida State. He hadn't pitched in 10 days, so they put him in the rotation. It took off. It's a great story, and he's an amazing development.
Can we cross? Pull a New York move.
One of the things that made the Dodgers so good is that the players were actually living with the fans, sometimes upstairs in the same house. And when they went to the local butcher, he'd maybe give them a free steak if the player hit a home run.
We all knew and lived the players. They were around. You know, you could see them on the street. They were members of the community in a very real sense.
I'm a New Yorker. I was born here, raised here. Growing up, I was a diehard Yankee fan, but most of my family was actually Mets fans. I just feel happy to be close to home.
When I think about Justin Dunn, I feel like there's a relation to myself. I know what it's like to have the game of your life in a Met uniform.
In the air to left field, Pagan is there. Nelson Figueroa with his first Major League complete game and shutout, a 4-hitter.
But for me, because I was a 30th round draft pick, wasn't given a big signing bonus, it was always about making the most of my opportunities. Every single game was an audition. Most first rounders, it kind of gets to their head right away that they are special. This guy isn't treated that way. Right now, he's in the process of trying to figure out what it's going to take to get to the next level and the next level, and ultimately to the major league level as quickly as possible. Once you join the professional ranks, whatever that monetary value that they put on you when they signed you, that goes by the wayside. You have to show each and every time what you think your value is.
One, 2, 3 bunts. Beautiful. Yeah, you're nice and balanced. Keep the pressure on inside parts of your feet, all right? 1, 2.
My dad, he helps me pitch and bat, and he also paid lessons from a coach who actually helps other baseball players. They spend, I think, over $1,000 for us to play baseball.
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Baseball player. Baseball player? A cop. I'm a baseball player. Wait, are you allowed to be a baseball player and a football player?
It has happened.
Is it legal to be a baseball player, football player, and a cop?
Righty batter.
Tell me when, don't push back, tell me when it hurts. Is that all right? For me as a father, I've used baseball not only to just teach him the basic life lessons that come with it, but also that you have to believe in yourself and you have to have the ability to stand up for yourself. Growing up in a town where there's very little diversity, everyone knew, oh, that's the Muslim kid or that's the Pakistani kid. When you're a younger kid, you really don't notice these things. But as you get older, right, there was a little bit more of the bullying that happened, a little bit more of the racism that happened. We were a different skin tone, we were a different religion. So you were a natural person to be picked on. In high school, there'd be hallways at certain times of the day. At 1:15 after 7th period, don't go down this hall because this group of kids is coming out of the class there. So go down the longer way and hustle to your next class before the bell rings and go that way. So there was a lot of that for me. I went through all this misery in Long Island. When I went to college, I said no. There ain't no way I'm ever coming back here again. And then eventually I moved to Colorado. After 9/11 happened, my sons were born, and at the time, it felt like things were getting better. But as they've gotten older and older, it seems like nothing has improved, and maybe it's gotten a little bit worse. It keeps me up at night. I mean, the last thing I want is my kids to go through the same thing I did. That dread of waking up in the morning and having to go to school.
I've been on the police department a little over 16 years now. My dad actually asked me if I wanted to take the fire department test, and I said, no. And he said, why is that? I said, because I don't have any guts to run into any type of fire or climb that ladder on the truck. And he goes, yeah, but you're a police officer. I said, yeah, it's still two different things. September 11th, that morning, I didn't get the phone call. All I got was, I heard my sister on my answering machine, Rachel, Rachel. And so I got up and I called her. She's like, you know, you have to put on the television.
We want to tell you what we know as we know it. We just got a report in that there's been some sort of explosion at the World Trade Center in New York City.
And I was like, oh my God. At that time, my father was assigned to what was called the safety battalion. They got the call and they tacked up and they went to the Trade Center. The last time he was seen alive is he was going into the building doing evacuations, getting all the civilians out. I don't know if I ever told anyone, but that day I did have a feeling. I did. A few things transpired and I did have a feeling that, but I was holding on to hope that, you know, he would come out of there, but even if he knew what the outcome was gonna be, there's no doubt in my mind that he would have stayed in the building doing evacuations. That's just how my dad was.
A single person seldom changes the course of history. But sometimes, when someone with exceptional humility, grace, and self-awareness emerges, anything can happen. After 400 years of bondage in Egypt, God took notice of the Israelites' suffering and ordered Moses to tell Pharaoh this: "Let my people go."
I was lucky enough to meet Jackie Robinson when I was 8, 9, 10, because my dad was a drinking buddy of Branch Rickey. Those of us that saw the Brooklyn Dodgers and saw Jackie, we were able to touch something special just by watching him dangle off of second base or dash around the bases. When I was named president of NYU, the folks at the New York Times sent me a beautiful letter. And they said, we know that you're a huge baseball fan and especially a fan of Jackie Robinson. So we have gone down into our archives and we're sending you a, quote, original 1955 Jackie Robinson glove, close quote. Now you read that and it's not clear what it means. It could be a glove that Jackie actually wore, or it could be a kid's glove. And I've talked to various people. I don't remember there being model gloves in those days, and it doesn't bear anything that says, you know, Jackie Robinson model or anything like that. It is of the size that a Major League ball player would have used in those days. I could certainly find out the facts of the situation, but facts and truth aren't always the same thing. If I found out factually that it was a kid's glove, it was certainly meaningful. It's a nice gift from the New York Times, but it wouldn't be what I call in my book a hierophany. It wouldn't be a vehicle by which I would see through to the sacred, ineffable space. Whereas if it was Jackie's glove, oh, you know, I'm now touching the glove that Jackie Robinson wore. Now I'm in touch, that's a relic. I'm in touch with the saint. This wonderful rotunda in Jackie. It's evocative. It brings us back. But it's not Ebbets Field.
No, it's not Ebbets Field, and it's not the Brooklyn Dodgers. You know, when we designed this, John, there was a lot of criticism from Met fans who said, you know, this is the Mets' heritage. This is not the Dodgers. It's Jackie Robinson, who was a great Hall of Fame player, but a greater American. And that's why I wanted this, because I wanted thousands and thousands of children to be able to see this, and then they learn what was Jackie about. It's what he did, how he got there, what he went through to get there, and what kind of a man he was for the rest of his life.
I had always seen the 42s at stadiums, you know, and never really understood what it meant. And then as I got older, I kind of asked why every stadium had the number 42 and no one wore it. So when my dad explained it, things became a little bit more clear for me, and I realized how big of an impact Jackie Robinson had on the game. When I was having a bad day, I would go to the batting cage and hit baseballs, because that's just, it was a calming thing for me. And it's just always been my safe place. It's the place where I could get away and kind of be who I was. I was always kind of a shy kid, but on the field, I was the confident guy who was outgoing and talking and always there for his team. So that's where I felt the most comfortable. And that's where I could express myself, was on a baseball field.
The earliest memory I have of him was at 3 years old. We were at a friend's house, and I was just watching him throw the ball the length of the pool, and just amazed that he could reach from one side to the other at 3. His arm, as they always say, his arm worked really well at a young age.
Where you going? Back to school. Where you go to school at?
Boston College, it's right there.
From the age of 13, when he went away to boarding school, he's always been on the road. He's always been away.
Once you pursue that dream, it's not going to be easy. You don't get there easy. It's going to be hard. There are going to things that you're going to face that you may never think that you would have ever faced in your entire life. We set the bar high for him. We taught Justin to have respect for yourself, for others, and for God. Because you're not in a world by yourself. We're here to help others.
I was taught by my high school coach that the way to play the game the right way is respect the game, respect your teammates, and just play hard, get better every day, and you just keep your head down and go about your business. You know, because nobody's bigger than this game, and it'll humble you really quick when you get to that point.
Buddha was a crown prince who left his people behind in search of the deeper meaning of his own existence. After years of meditation, he gained enlightenment. But his final insight was that his spiritual journey would not be complete until he had come home and shared his wisdom. Buddha's greatest understanding is that we are greater than ourselves. It's the sort of revelation that comes not through theory, but practice. A deep spiritual reflection evoked by an encounter with truth.
So are the Cubs going to win it this year?
If Jesus was in the car and you asked him that question, he would say, I have no idea. I don't know. It's baseball. And, you know, baseball's not like other sports. It doesn't conform to any kind of rules. Right now, I live in fear that the Yankees might even make the playoffs. I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning just to see if they won or lost. Swear to God. You don't do that. You don't do that.
No, I don't. And I root for them. So 1969 was a big year. You know, people think of it as a big year in New York sports, which it was, but it was a big year in the Sexton family because my son was born. I knew that giving him the baseball team for which he would root for life, and it would be for life, would be even more important than giving him a religion, because people change their religions, but they very rarely change the teams for which they root. At the time, I was still rooting for the Dodgers. The Dodgers had moved to the coast, of course, a decade before. They were only in town 6 times a year. It was clear to me that the Dodgers could not be the team I gave my son. So then it became the Mets, and the Mets were having a glorious year that year. 1969 was their first World Series victory. And the Yankees. Now, you know, I had grown up as a Dodger fan, and then every autumn, I'd be held against the fence in the playground. Admit it, the Rizzuto's better than Reese. Mantl's better than Snyder. Of course, you know, I was like the Christian martyrs. I had taken the pummeling every year. So how could I give him the Yankees? Then I thought about it, and I said, wait a minute, you know, tradition. You got to remember, I'm a 50s Catholic. So tradition with a capital T. You know, the saints of Ruth and Garrick, the monuments in center field. So I chose the Yankees. It was hard. Personally, it was hard, but it was a gift of love to my son.
Oh, John.
It's one of the best decisions I ever made. I gave my son a great gift. And my basic premise was correct. Because my son, who was baptized, later was bar mitzvahed. My son has changed his religion, but he's still a Yankee fan.
Come on, let's go to the main door.
No, we come in the front and ring the doorbell.
Oh my God, how are you?
All right, do we have anything else on the car that needs to come out, or are we good?
No, we want to use a fork and maybe a plate?
No. Everyone doesn't like the Yankees just because they're jealous.
No.
You know, when Dada started to watch the games, we had Dave Winfield. He was my favorite player.
I was raised in Pakistan, and I came in 2002 for my electives in Boston. I came to Children's Hospital. By profession, I'm a doctor. I did my medicine, and then I got married, then I moved here. We were in Colorado for 7 years, and 5.5 years ago, we moved back to New York for the family. When me and my husband met, he said, listen, if you're a Red Sox fan, there'll be grounds for divorce in our house. But I happen to be a Red Sox fan.
When we first moved back to Long Island, it was a little bit of a struggle. For me, the motivation was, I need to get back to my father. He's growing older. I'm the oldest son. I have that sense of responsibility. I'm like, okay, regardless of whatever memories I've had, right, and the people that still live here, right, who've caused those memories, it doesn't matter. When my wife and I had kids, we had a long talk about who is it that we are? Who are we as a family? What is it that we want our kids to have? We want them to have their identity, right? We want them to know that, yes, you are Muslim. And there are certain things that you can't do that everyone else can. There are certain things that people believe and certain events that they celebrate that just within us we don't do. But that comprises maybe 5% of life. 95% of everything else in the American way of life coexists very peacefully with Islam.
Lam, Mim, Ha, Hamza.
It's really important for me that they're able to not only understand the basic tenets of the religion and the morals of the religion, but there are certain things that they need to know. They have to know how to read Arabic, right? They have to know how to read the Quran. The tenets of prayer is really, really important. That disconnect from the world temporarily, just to reconnect yourself with a higher power, just for a couple of times a day is really important. This year, baseball season and Ramadan went hand in hand. And Ayan, the oldest, he wanted to fast. And I told him, you have a game today. He's like, so? I'm like, all right. So he fasted the whole day and probably had one of his best games that day. So they're able to see that I can practice my religion and do all these things that I love, whether it's baseball or hanging out with friends or whatnot. You don't see a lot of Muslims in baseball. And I kind of hope that one of my kids will be the Muslim Jackie Robinson. It's like, it was Ayan Sabzori or Rehan Sabzori that really said, hey, Muslims can play baseball too.
Remembrance, which is located just outside the ballpark. The Cyclones are proud to host this wall, which is New York City's first 9/11 memorial.
I try to encourage my daughter to be whatever she wants to be in life. Thank you, you too. And I just try to be there and always cheer her on and encourage her like my dad did to me, and just be there. I always bring my dad into things, and especially that he's over there on the wall, that in particular. You know, we're a very close family. We always have been, we always will be. Let me know when it's getting
I think it's good. It's getting on me.
Okay.
Where are we gonna put it? You wanna put it on the
Just
floor?
put it on the floor right in front of Grandpa. Make sure that the bottom is good, that it's not gonna fall.
Yeah.
I think they're pretty, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they're beautiful. They're colorful.
Anytime that I go to the stadium, I always go to the Brooklyn Wall of Remembrance and say hello to my dad and to other fellas on the wall. I might not speak to him out loud, but I'll just definitely stand in front of his face and I'll say my hello and just say a little prayer by the wall and chat with my dad sometimes.
I think that it's an honor for him to be there with all of these very brave and selfless people. And in the same turn, he wouldn't want to be on that wall because he was just doing his job as everybody else was that day.
It's just like how everything comes like full
Full
circle,
circle.
right? It all comes around.
I think he would get a kick out of getting to go to all of the games.
As much as coming home is an external journey, the last step, it's an internal one. After all, home isn't a place, home is an idea. It means achieving your highest self. Belonging and finding peace.
Baseball has the capacity to teach people to live slow and to live in the intense observation of the moment. We can slow down our time such that we can cultivate contemplation. And by cultivating contemplation, we begin to have mindfulness. And by having mindfulness, we can begin to see through the obvious to the deeper part of all.
This is going to be my dream. Yankee Stadium, Game 7 World Series. You're catching, and I throw out the first pitch to you. And Ion's going to be on the mound. That'll be my dream. See? When our kids started playing baseball and becoming really good at it, was about the same time my wife and myself started accepting that, hey, this could be home. We're at a point now where it's hard for us to leave this town. If I come home and have a bad day at work, I'll go watch Ayan or Rehan just hit just monster hits. That's it. That's all I need. When you're out here, watch how Justin pitches, okay? Watch how he pushes off that front leg. The batters, watch how they rotate.
Every time Justin's pitching, I breathe with him. I'm saying, exhale, exhale. Guiding him, and he can't even hear me guiding him. Because I've done it for so long, since he was so little. What's nice to even come here and experience him, because there's so many games that we missed. And I said to him, once you pursue that dream, there is going to be distance between us. And we won't always be as close as we want to be physically. But in each other's spirit and space, we're always there, and we're always in his heart.
You walk around here, you see so many people.
Imagine how many people Daddy would run into that he knows.
He wouldn't even be able to sit down. No, he would love this. He really would.
My dad would definitely be honored to be a part of the stadium, especially because it's Brooklyn. He was born and raised in Brooklyn, and he just loved the borough.
There's a magic in the ballpark, and it's hard to describe, but it's just something about sitting in those stands, whether you're behind home plate or up in the nosebleed. There's that sense of, this is where I should be, this is where I can find peace, this is where I can find myself. There's just something calm about it. There's something home about it. Just watching a baseball game.
I strive to be as good a parent as my dad was. I try to take his influences that he gave to me, and hopefully, I'll pass that on to my daughter.
To actually see people want his autograph. If it's just Justin. But it's Justin moving forward in his dream.
Coming home isn't always easy. It's a journey filled with adversity, hardship, and sometimes inexplicable loss. But But we know that when we finally get there, we're safe. And then we go forth once more.
This is a painful thing for me to say, especially on camera. But Branch Rickey actually asked my father to be the general counsel of the Brooklyn Dodgers. And my dad was a figure in Brooklyn politics and didn't want to leave that life. And he recommended another one of his drinking buddies, which is a guy named Walter O'Malley. So, I mean, that decision by my dad, I mean, he could have been the owner of the Dodgers. He could have been what O'Malley was, but he would never have moved the Dodgers from Brooklyn. The Dodgers would still be in Brooklyn, and I would be running the Dodgers. I mean, it's a whole different alternative universe in which things don't go wrong, and probably, if that doesn't go wrong, probably the assassinations of the 60s and the Vietnam War and Watergate, none of that would have happened. It would have all just, we'd still believe in institutions in the United States. Because, you know, when the Dodgers left Brooklyn, any institution could die.